Hi guys, what the heck is happening at the BBC? So in the news this week, Keir Starmer and Home Secretary Yvette Cooper have announced an extra £75 million to tackle people smugglers. This cash is expected to be part of a bigger investment of £150 million going towards the government's new Border Security Command, which will expand the use of technology, intelligence, along with hiring staff to deal with the gangs. As I've said before, there's little you can do to stop people determined to come to Britain, so a more humane and frankly cheaper approach will be to create safer routes. But instead of getting on an expert to discuss this, the BBC invited this guy on who normally appears on GB News and Talk TV.
None of this will actually stop the boats or stop the illegal migrants coming to the United Kingdom.
Okay, we're off to a great start, aren't we? Instead of actually using the correct term, which is asylum seekers, he's using illegal migrants. Remember, this guy is supposed to be an expert. He's been invited on to the BBC to talk about immigration, to talk about asylum seekers, and he's already using the wrong terms.
Unfortunately, what the Prime Minister is trying to do is just not feasible. He has He's got to come up with a deterrent to make the migrants not want to come to the UK. If the migrants don't want to come to the UK, the smugglers won't be there to bring them.
But they want to come to the UK. That's the problem. You know, you say, well, we need to do is encourage them not to come. But how do you discourage people who want to come to Britain? Like, the only way you could create a deterrent would be to run Britain into the ground, to make Britain such a horrible place that it's worse than where they are. That's the only deterrent. That's the only way a deterrent would work. That if Britain was worse than the country that they're leaving, that they were more persecuted in Britain than they would be in their home country. Like this, once again, this guy is supposed to be an expert.
Well, he says the deterrent is prosecuting those smugglers quickly, getting them sent to jail, a bit like happened after the riots in the summer, and deporting those people who come here who do not have their asylum claims granted and getting them out quickly. He says if you do all that quickly, that will act as a deterrent.
Well, it won't, because first of all, you can't deport failed asylum seekers because the majority of them destroy their documents, and so you have no document to remove them on.
What? Why are you lying? This is BS. Once again, he's meant to be some sort of immigration expert. So, and we hear this all the time. We hear this from Nigel Farage, we hear it from the far right, we hear it from Reform UK, we hear it from people who are supposed to be experts on the BBC. Well, what they do is they tear up their documents and then they can't be sent back to their home country. That's not true, because if the UK has an agreement with certain countries, if it has an embassy in those countries, it can work with those countries to relocate those people back. So tearing up someone's documents is not an automatic, okay, now we can't remove this person. It makes it more difficult, yes, but it's not impossible, because you have agreements with countries. You reach out to them. You say, okay, we have these individuals in our country. We believe they're from your country. Can we use the systems that you have available to verify whether these people are, fingerprints, DNA, stuff like this? You can check. Now, if you have a good relationship with that other country, there's a better chance of having those people returned. Especially, the problem here is not about documents, it's about safety. Is it safe to return people to these countries? It's not just we have to send these people back. Like, he's talking about failed asylum seekers. Then in that case, these people, their claim has not been granted. They have failed in their attempt, and it's right to deport them. But if you have agreement with those countries, it makes it easier. But Brexiteers like this guy don't want to have agreements with other countries. They want to pull up the drawbridge.
And what you have to do, you have to prove to the country that you are removing somebody that they are a citizen of that country. And the accepted way of doing that is with a passport. So
no, it's not just with a passport. There are other ways. You can have emergency documents. Anyone who has lost a passport knows they can apply to the embassy for an emergency document. It's not, the only way to fly is not just a passport. There are emergency ways, and the government, of course, the Home Office has access to these ways. Now, is it Is it easier to deport somebody? Yes, of course it's easier if you have a passport, because their name and address and everything is on that document. That's proof that they're from that country. But if they tear up their documents, it's not the only way to have somebody deported. He knows this, or well, he should at least know this.
So if these people have destroyed their passports, then they give the border force an incorrect name, an incorrect date of birth. That's it. They're here for life.
But what about the deterrence against the people smugglers, which is if you use technology, if you have more investigators, you have more prosecutors, and you're able to therefore send to prison more of the gangs, maybe it sends a deterrent signal to them, which is it's not worth it. You're going to get caught.
Yeah, you can send more of them to prison, but don't forget the only ones that you can actually prosecute and send to prison are the ones in the United Kingdom.
That part is right. Yeah, on that aspect of this, he is correct. You can only imprison people who are in the UK, so this is a bit of a pointless policy. Once again, if you want to stop the boats, if you want to stop people dying in the sea, you create a safe route for them. They're determined to come to Britain. You know, as I said before, the only functional deterrent will be to run Britain into the ground. The Tories perhaps were trying to do that either by design or by accident, I'm not sure. But this guy obviously doesn't understand immigration. He doesn't understand asylum. He doesn't understand a lot of things. Why the heck is he on the BBC being interviewed? He's not an expert. I might as well be there. It seems I actually understand the asylum process better than this guy. It's ridiculous. And the big problem here is that he goes unchallenged. He was not asked to explain the difference between migrants and asylum seekers. Obviously, from the outset, he used the wrong terms. And this is important because the public need to be informed. The function of the BBC, especially when they're doing interviews like this, is to correct the record, is to make sure that the public are informed about what's right and what's wrong when it comes to terminology. If they pick up the wrong terms, then they'll run with them. And politicians, of course, use the wrong terms to reinforce a point or to push a narrative. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.